Welcome to another episode of Bargain Saturdays, and this week I decided to take a look at Captain America, starring Reb Brown. And I'll be upfront admitting I watched this movie last week, so this movie's been floating around in my head for a week, but I haven't had too much time to actually think about it. So this review is going to be very unscripted, so if I start to go off on tangents and long-winded ramblings, I apologize now. And I should also admit I watched this last week, so this was the most patriotic thing I did on the 4th of July. I watched an old Captain America movie that just isn't very good, all things considered. Maybe it was better at the time, but not by today's standards. This movie is horribly dated, and it's just not very action-packed for a movie that claims to be action-packed, you know. I guess we should take a look at some of the bigger problems people have with this movie. For starters, this movie doesn't follow the actual origin story of Captain America in the comics, assuming that there aren't many variations of this origin story, considering how long the character's been around and how long times comic universes will reset. Well, not often, but sometimes. I'm not sure how many times they've told and retold and maybe altered the origin story. But this movie doesn't follow the comics at all and has its own origin story, where Steve Rogers is the son of the original Captain America, who was a scientist that created FLAG, Full Latent Ability Gain. Yeah, cute acronym, right? I mean, Kids Next Door did it better, so you're not going to impress me. But yeah, if you're a fan of Captain America and you're really diehard about the movies being accurate to the comics, I'd almost instantly say forget this movie, because it doesn't follow the origin story at all, like I said. So, yeah, if for purists, you can just forget about this movie. You're not going to like it. It's just going to be something you'd watch to get pissed off, I guess. 2, the movie lacks any sort of main villain from the actual Captain America's rogue gallery. Instead, we have a rather generic villain that's a business tycoon who runs an oil company who's hired a scientist to help him make a neutrino bomb so he can steal $100 million of gold bullion from Los Angeles. And if you don't give it to him, he's going to blow up the entire city and kill everyone. It's not like the radiation would hurt the gold, right? I mean, it's just a very generic villain, and it's not a very interesting villain. And 3, there's the outfit itself. I mean, I guess you could argue that based on the cover, you wouldn't think it's that bad. I mean, sure, the stripes and stuff isn't probably the best. But then you look at the back of the box and you have some actual photos of it, you're like, he's wearing a motorcycle helmet. And it looks terrible. I mean, you can barely make out the start of this motorcycle helmet on this box if you look at his ears, where his ears would be real closely. But back of the box, you're like, damn, that looks terrible. Not to mention the shield is partially see-through, because it also doubles as a windshield for the motorcycle. And that was probably a terrible idea in retrospect, because it doesn't really feel like a Captain America shield by being designed that way. I mean, I guess you could argue it's somewhat innovative to have the shield be a windshield on a motorcycle, but at the same time, it also doesn't make sense later on in one of the scenes that we get. Well, one of the few action scenes we get, where Reb Brown's riding his motorcycle and he's got the windshield on front, and this helicopter comes up behind him with a guy shooting at him with a rifle. And of course, he can't hit him despite shooting at him dozens of times, and sometimes being only a couple dozen feet away. Maybe it's hard to hit a target when you're on an unstable platform, but at the same time, it feels rather embarrassing that he can't hit his target. But at times, he'll miss just barely and hit the shield that's right in front of Reb Brown. And considering the bullets bounce off the shield, shouldn't they bounce off the shield, ricochet on an angle, and potentially hit Captain America? He doesn't get hit at all, even when they're bouncing off the shield back towards him. Or is Reb Brown's muscles so powerful that they can block bullets, you know? It just feels like that was just a poorly done and thought out scene. They didn't consider the fact that the shield bounces bullets, and they would be probably bouncing at an angle potentially back at Reb Brown himself. Or at the very least would be ricocheting off near his arm, so he might be getting cut on the arm while he's driving and lose control or something. It doesn't make much sense. Not to mention the way the chase ends with the helicopter. He jumps off a conveniently placed ramp, so he can then grab onto the leg of the helicopter, which is just happens to be low enough for him to jump and reach up to from the bike, because apparently the pilot's an idiot. So you can then climb into the cabin, throw the guy with the rifle out, and then basically use the rifle to threaten the pilot to tell him, "Put this bird down now, or I kill you." Which also doesn't make sense, because the pilot has far more control in that situation than you do. I mean, what happens if the pilot decides to fly up several hundred feet in the air, and it's like, well, shoot me now? I mean, sort of like if someone tries to steal your car when you're in the middle of driving on the highway or something, it's just like floor the gas pedal and go like 100 miles per hour. Well, you shoot me now, we're both gonna die. I mean, there's that sort of stuff, issues that are going on here, you know. I don't know if that's a true story or not, but you're always like, is it really that bright of an idea to threaten the pilot while in a fast-moving vehicle, or a vehicle that can get really high up there, so if it falls and you don't know how to pilot it very well, you might just hit the ground so hard it kills you? I guess for a fourth issue, we also just have the fact that Reb Brown's not a very good actor. There's quite a few drama scenes in this movie, and Reb Brown just doesn't have the acting abilities to carry them. Reb Brown's abilities as an actor basically amount to shooting a gun and screaming and yelling, and he's not doing either of those things in this movie. Captain America never yells, and the only time he holds a gun, he doesn't shoot it. Brilliant. The actor's two talents, and you don't use either of them. Instead, we have to watch him stumble through dramatic scenes and deliver his lines with such a wooden delivery that I almost have to question, is Reb Brown a robot? Is he a poorly programmed Cylon meant to take over the world? There's no way a human could deliver these lines this poorly, right? I mean, he delivers lines like telling this girl, "Your father's dead, and he died in my arms." And he talks about this stuff with such a wooden fashion. You're like, there's no way he can be a human being. No, it's a proven fact. Reb Brown's not a human being. I'm sorry, Reb Brown fans, that he's a robot. No way he can deliver his lines the way he does and not be a robot. I'm sorry. It's just a fact now. But yeah, Reb Brown's acting abilities are just terrible. In the fifth issue, there's just a lot of scenes that just drag on too long. Like the opening of the movie is watching Reb Brown drive his van for 3 minutes, basically, until he gets to a friend of his to check for some messages, make a phone call. And then he goes back to driving his car for a couple more minutes. And they're like, oh, he's going to come across an oil slick after being detoured down the wrong road. This has to be one of the most elaborate and pointless traps in movie history, too, that he gets suckered into. And you're like, why on earth would you bother trying to kill him with what would appear like to be a car accident? Why not just hire an assassin to kill him if you're super worried about him becoming Captain America? Because that's why the villains want to take Steve out. They don't want him to become Captain America. Of course, the name Captain America is meant to be an insult in this movie, apparently, because that's what the villains called Steve's father, because he shoved America down their throats. And they're like, we're going to call you Captain America, and it's meant to be insulting to you, even though you're fighting for the American ideal, you know, of truth and honor and justice. And you're like, well, how on earth is that really an insult? Maybe if you want to argue that that's how people don't really perceive America as being that way nowadays, I can understand that to some extent, because it does feel like America is full of corruption and just rife with it, to the point where nothing really gets done that's not wanted by corporations and whatnot, that truth and justice have never really been something that America's really strived to achieve, because if you look at statistics when it comes to prison sentences and stuff, it doesn't feel like America really tries to live up to those ideals, and oftentimes people are don't really care about that. They don't want America to live up to those ideals, or don't care to try to live up to those ideals to the best of their ability. And I'm guilty of that too. It's hard to want to change a system that you know just doesn't want to be changed. Though I guess again I'm getting off on a tangent now, but the movie's making you think more about actual real-world problems than the movie itself does. And if I had to pick a sixth problem, that I probably already pointed out, this movie is just, it doesn't have very well done action scenes, which I probably already pointed out. But yeah, all of them are pretty bad. I mean, when you have the movie ending with Reb Brown holding like a breath mask over a guy's face, and then holding a squeeze bag in another hand, preparing to force the guy to breathe in oxygen so he doesn't die. That's not a very heart-pounding scene. And the final confrontation in the movie, not final boss fight, sorry, is Reb Brown just slightly bending the exhaust pipes on a big rig. That's it. I mean, there's no big fisticuffs or anything that happens. Just some bending of pipes using super strength. So it's not even really testing Captain America's abilities to take in this guy. I mean, I know he's meant to be a rather generic villain, but at least if you're gonna do an origin story, you could at least have Captain America struggle to control his powers and abilities effectively. Because like he's just got them like a day ago. Make him struggle or have to figure out his powers and abilities. Don't make it seem like he just can naturally use them. You would think if you just got superpowers, it'd take you a little bit of time to adjust to them. You wouldn't just be able to know, oh yeah, I can easily bend this pipe, and I can control my strength enough that I can not break things on accident. I guess you can argue there's wasted story opportunity there, but considering Reb Brown's acting talents, I don't think they would have had the ability to really pull that off convincingly anyway. I guess I talked about this movie for far longer than I really wanted to, but yeah. I wouldn't say it's unwatchable, but at the same time, it's not a very good movie to want to sit down and watch anyway. Though, thinking of the sequel for a second, one of my coworkers really asked me, is the subtitle really Death Too Soon? I'm like, yes. They're like, well, where do you find these movies? I'm like, Walmart. I'm like, I never see these movies at Walmart. I'm like, well, do you look in the DVD bins? Because this coworker doesn't like DVDs. He likes to buy Blu-rays. But the DVDs are where a lot of the more interesting stuff is ending up lately, I think. Just because you can really cheaply print out something on a DVD nowadays. Like, I mean, I got a bunch of 50 war movies for $9 on DVD. But yeah, now I'm going off on pointless tangents. Next week, I'll take a look at Death Too Soon. And I'll try to have an actual script put together to discuss it. And hopefully I won't retread too much ground from this episode. But until next time then, see ya.
How'd you manage to get away from Mills?
I promised to try a little special recruiting technique.